Hey everybody, welcome to Office Hours. Happy Friday. I don't know about you, but it's freezing cold here, so I'm in my warmest cozy sweater. We are here with Ayelet Marinovich. Please tell me I pronounced that correctly.
Really
Yes, amazing. I'm really, really excited about today's session because I know like the online coaching world is a world I'm pretty familiar with. So when I heard what you were doing with Notion and coaching, I was like, we need to talk. I need to see what you're doing. And so some of you might have heard me talk a little bit about this session as well, but Ayelet is using chilipepper.io with Notion to really plan the whole beginning to end process of her coaching program. So before we dive into that, one thing I'd love to know, where you're coming in from, and are you running a coaching program currently, or maybe you're thinking about running one? Let us know in the chat. Amazing. Alberta, welcome Canadians. Let us know where you're at with that. Also, always good to know what people's level of Notion experience is as well. Let us know maybe how long you've been using Notion. And Ayelet, maybe you could let us know how long you've been using Notion, because I know it was a bit of a process to decide even to decide, put all of this sort of coaching material in there. So tell me a little bit about the process, how long your program has been around, what your program is, this coaching program, and kind of what the process was to get it into Notion, how this whole thing evolved.
Yes, sure. So, well, first of all, I'm in California. So any Californians, hello. Let's see, lots of questions. Okay. So I am by trade, I'm a pediatric speech language pathologist, but when I had my first child about 6.5 years ago, I started doing a lot of parent education, basically like to bribe other new parents to play with me.
Smart.
Yeah, right. And I was living, abroad. I had to create a social and support network for myself, and so that was what started all of this many, many years ago. Yeah. As that sort of live baby toddler development class sort of evolved, we left where we were at the time, which was the UK. We moved to Berlin, and then we moved back to California. So over that period of time, I sort of started to bring my parent education business online, started a podcast, started like an online course, which has morphed many times over into—
As they do, right?
Yeah. And then morphed into 2 different books as well. So that was where all of this started. And then once I had created the sort of basis for everything, I really full circle moved backwards and realized that I had built the foundation for what I had always imagined, but never really knew how to build the pieces in the beginning, which was I want to create an opportunity for other people like myself, educators, therapists, or other professionals who work with new families or young children, to enable them to utilize the curriculum that I built over this period of time and iterated on, and offer these sort of baby and me, parent to me type parent education, parent support classes / workshops in their own home communities all over the world. So I built that. I realized that I could build that last year. So in sort of mid to late 2019, and then started that process, got a trademark and all of the blah, 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 make sure that I have everything that I need to actually build this. And then did that and started realizing over many months that I really needed to be organized, which of course I am, as a clinician, I have a certain level of organization that I'm comfortable with. I know that I need to file certain things. I know that I know that things need to be turned in on time and reports need to be written and things like that. But as a business owner, and responsible for my own everything that I was creating, that was literally just like coming out of my brain. It was overwhelming, to say the least.
And was it just you? Are you like a solo?
It's still just me. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Just ridiculous. There will come a time, and that's part of it too, right? Like I realized how much of like I needed to actually create SOPs and real, processes that were written somewhere other than in here.
Yeah.
So I had played around with Asana. I had played around with Trello to certain degrees of success. I have always been extremely jealous and I really want my brain to work in that way, and it just doesn't. I have to, like you were saying, Maria, you and I were speaking about before we came on air, like it just takes a lot of effort for me to get my brain around that. And because I have limited bandwidth, I have 2 young children, I'm running a business, I'm doing all of this by myself, I record a podcast as often as I can, all of the things, I just was like, I can't teach myself how to get everything organized as well as do it all, right? Enter Notion, which I'm so happy about. And I think it was in middle of 2019 that I even found Notion and listened to one of these, and your resources
ideas.
incredible, and I just started realizing, just this open book I can do whatever works for me. And I started playing around and then slowly built something that is at least workable for now, and that I hope to someday, train somebody else and have them make it look even more useful.
Amazing.
But yeah.
So it's only been about just over a year, I guess, that you've been working in Notion. And then I think it was, you said the beginning of this year that you started to really build out all those intake forms. And actually, we had talked about this earlier that I still use Airtable. It's a great tool, great for all those zippy connections and API and all that. But it can be overkill for the average person, I think, just trying to, like you said, keep their business humming along. So I think you saw Airtable, you were like, whoa, baby, this is not going to happen. And then you learned about chilipepper.io.
Yes.
So for those of you that haven't heard of Chili Pepper, chilipepper.io, we'll drop the link in the chat. Maybe Danny can do that. But it's an amazing intake. Well, it's a form process that you can embed into Notion. I think it was built by Carson. So really cool guys that were kind of building that as an extension. And so you discovered this. Did it stick right away? Did it take a while to figure out? How is it working for you now?
It's so easy. It's like amazing. So cool. I will say, like, it's not perfect. It's still in beta. They're still, building it. But for my purposes right now and the way, for the way that I'm using it, it's working just fine.
Amazing.
So I use it. I use it throughout the process of my coaching program. I use it throughout many different processes within running my business, and I'm happy to show all of them to you.
Yeah, amazing. I'd love to see the different ways you're using it. And I was like, maybe I should actually be using Chili Pepper.io instead of Airtable. I know a lot of my tables have like a ton of data, and again, because it was still in beta, I've experimented with it a little bit. But yeah, we love Chili Pepper. So amazing. Oh, okay, Adrian. I didn't know Adrian was with Chili Pepper too. That's so cool. Okay, so it must be Adrian and Carson that are working on that. Very cool. I'm excited to showcase this. Maybe you guys will have to come on for an office hours next time, and you guys can showcase some of the other ways that people are using the tool. So if you're down, I can zoom in on your screen and we can jump into the process. And it's probably good to walk people through, like, from the beginning, I guess, when someone is learning about your program or they're filling out an application. Yeah, feel free to walk us through.
Yeah. So basically the process here specifically for my coaching program, which is a licensing and certification program, as I mentioned, it's for educators and therapists who would like to bring a parent education component into the work that they are doing. So maybe a daycare owner who wants to lead little classes in their community, or maybe a speech language pathologist who would also like to offer parent education services, for instance. So first, what happens is someone will watch a training, a free webinar. They will decide whether or not they want to purchase. If they purchase, and actually, I think I have. Here we are.
Oh, fun.
Onboarding process. So
we love Notion.
Payment. I add them to my facilitator licensees page, and then they are automatically sent an email that says, "Thank you so much. We're so excited to start with you. Here is the first thing you need to do to receive," and they are sent this intake form. So the intake form is this. It welcomes them to the process, and they then fill it out. And basically they tell me their name, they tell me a series of questions that helps me understand more about them, and also weeds out whether they are a good fit. Now, obviously in my marketing and my webinar and all of my content, I try to be very clear about who this is a good fit for. So luckily I haven't had to weed out anybody yet. But they submit that form, and then I add it to, their information within my own records, and then they are accepted into the program. Now, the program itself is hosted in, I happen to use Teachable. So then they, let's see. So then what happens? So then they're in the program. All right. So in the program, they are taken through a series of 6 modules. Here, hang on a sec. Yes. And after they complete each module, I ask them to then give me feedback, and if they have any specific question about each one. So there are, forms, they toggle down or whatever. They can just tell me which module this question relates to, how confident they feel after doing it, and then what remaining questions they have, so that we can go over those questions or concerns or anything at the next monthly Q&A call that we have. So that is an ongoing process of refining and iterating on the actual program itself as well. I then also, at the end of the training, they can provide specific feedback about the entirety of the program. And that informs me a whole lot about what that, process was that shifted in their own completion of the program and participation.
And you get to go and add that to your sales page and testimonials, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I use that to go back into my marketing and into my sales page, and I use all of their words in everything, and it just is a nice,
it's magical. One thing I was going to ask you, when someone is filling out these details, do these details go to their account, or what's the process look like behind the scenes when you're receiving that info? Do you then connect it up with their account? What does that look like?
Yeah. So right now I am not using, I know that Chili Pepper has like a automatic webhook. And maybe Adrian, you and I could get on a call and you could walk me through what that looks, how to do that, because I haven't been able to dedicate the time to do that. But right now what happens is when someone fills out the form, it is automatically emailed to me, and then I manually go in and add it to their information within their like the database that I have, which is the template here, which I was mentioning I'd love to show you, but it has actual photographs of people that have not given me authorization to share their likeness, so I'm not going to do that. But basically, yeah, it adds it to the database within Notion of who they are, what they've said, what questions they had, all of those things. So I keep a running database of their feedback within each person's sort of module could say.
Gotcha. I know we had a question pop in from Naomi. Are you able to connect each answer from the same client to other answers from that client? So it sounds like that's a thing that you can do if you're using the webhook. But in this case, we're just kind of dumping the data and then we can send that over into their account. And I imagine, if you've got a ton of volume, you're going to be wanting to make sure. But if you're not getting, applications every hour, you can probably pretty easily handle that kind of.
Exactly. I also use Notion and this chili pepper form for a scholarship application that I have that goes along with this. So should people, apply for the scholarship that I have, that is also here. And that process is outlined. So it's similar questions as the intake form. And it submits, and then we set up a call to talk through their application.
Yeah, so, Iris was saying, it does look like chili pepper allows you to connect directly to a Notion table. You don't use that? Was it just that it felt like too complex or it felt maybe too technical? Or
right,
you weren't
like
sure
I
how to
said,
do it?
I am one person show and my brain doesn't naturally work like this. So I have been basically just in survive and thrive mode.
I hear you.
Trying to just get it. But yeah, you can send it directly. But I actually, at this point in my business right now, I actually like going through each response. I don't find it overwhelming because this is a higher ticket program. It doesn't get, hundreds of applications every day. So I hope that helps. But yeah, it does manually then go into a specific table in Notion.
Awesome. And then are there any elements of this? I mean, I know you're managing your coaching clients kind of behind the scenes. Are there any pages other than these application pages where you're actually sharing resources and content with them? I know you're still using Teachable. Is that kind of the primary?
I have thought about that, and I am planning to do that at some point. I do know, I do plan on, that's something in the process. I can say.
Yeah.
So right now they're like, for instance, my licensees, my clients are provided all of those resources within Teachable, but there will be places that and then I also have like a table that's used in Google Sheets that like we all add our own information, like from a pre and post survey that we use after we've done a class. And I can show you the surveys, which are within Notion, but the actual like database of information is currently in Google Sheets.
Makes sense. Yeah, I imagine if you're like, I could see their potential for you to be sharing resource libraries or, galleries full of resources that, parents and instructors and facilitators could use, but then they would obviously need to set up a Notion account and get comfortable with that. Whereas most people are pretty quickly familiar with Google Sheets. So it's just that little extra step, but I could see in Teachable you sharing some really interesting templates and resources that are Notion-based documents.
Yeah, I that's definitely something in the right. It's like right here in the brain.
Yeah. You're like, as soon as I have a free moment. A couple of things that popped in. Do you have people schedule things through Notion too with Zoom link and connect to calendar? I know you can embed Calendly links right into Notion, which is so magical. You just copy paste your Calendly link and that whole calendar appears. But I'm curious, do you use this for yourself within your coaching program?
I do not. Let's see. I'm just trying to even imagine what that would. Yeah. So no, I don't. I don't use my calendar connected.
I mean, and you absolutely could, like if there's any consultants here too, like maybe if you don't have a full coaching program, but anyone that does any kind of client services here, you could have these really simple intake form pages, right? Where it's like hiring me for a consult. Here you go. There's an intake form, or you have a little strategy, book a discovery call with me here, and you can, block those right into your pages and share those different pages with clients on an. One way that I like to do that too is like maybe there's services that you don't want publicly visible on your site, right? Like you don't want to advertise that you do them, but maybe once somebody reaches out to you, you say, oh, actually, I do have a service for that. You just drop them a Notion page. I often find that's faster than updating my website. And then you can send someone like a secret a secret offer with your calendar link.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. So many options. I mean, that's
so many.
So endless.
Naomi was saying, I'm curious how to handle permissions in Notion. Let's say a client is given access to one course housed in Notion and then another later. Is the best way to handle it to add them individually to pages as guests? So I think in your case, you're not actually adding people as guests into your space. When I was doing this inside of my own workspace, I would have a parent page that is the course. And often I tell people if you are going to invite someone into a course, to a resource, I have a special page for that, whether it's like public or resources or what have you. And anything that I share with the public that has open permissions, I put inside of that page, just so I'm not mixing things up or trying to find it. So I don't mix those up as part of my projects. They're all found in like a shared top level folder. All of your pages are in there. And yes, I would invite your clients on an as needed basis to each of those courses as a guest. Also, I mean, we have talked about this in the past, I think. But if not, Naomi, you might be interested in a session that's coming up soon. We're going to be doing a live stream with the guys from Memberspace. So Memberspace plus super.io, which allows you to lock member content on your Notion pages. So you can literally run entire membership sites and courses on Notion, which is pretty wild. So
that's amazing.
That's coming in a couple of weeks. So we'll definitely be digging into that specific use case. But I do find like a lot of people are using Notion to supplement content that they're hosting on other platforms. And then again, I just love these pages are so simple. They're so elegant. It's just text and a form. Like it's hard to go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then of course the sidebars would be closed. Yeah. I just wanted to show that this is another, like, for instance, this is what a pre-survey that I would send to a person who's attending one of my classes would receive. So it's like a description of me. They fill out a pre-survey, and then it's like a what to expect, right? And then so that helps me collect information about them before we're actually doing it, and then after I send them a follow-up, which is a like thank you for attending. And allows me to collect evaluative data about my program as well.
And I know Jeremy was mentioning like Fruition and Super are two great services that can help you have pretty URLs. So if you wanted to the point where it's learnwithless.com/what have thank you, you can start to do these more. But again, it's like, what's the minimum that I need to get this functioning, get the links ready, and you can always tweak and make things prettier and more automated after the fact, right?
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah. I use Notion a lot for this like sort of constant iteration communication between, but I also use it for workflows as well. And I know that might be something that might be interesting for your people as well. For instance, like my podcast. So I have my like pitch scripting here, my pitch a guest, my interview confirmation and prep, and then my episode is live. Here's how we share for people who are my guests.
It's so perfect for you to get an assistant. Everything's already outlined here for you.
I have a like list of potential podcast guests that I, just add to when I see somebody like on Instagram or something. I'm like, oh, that person might be somebody to reach out to. This one is a fun. This is the one that I'm mostly in. So like the people that I have contacted who have scheduled with me, the podcast episodes they have recorded are in the editing process or are edited, and then those that I have released. And then of course I have more podcast episodes than this, but this is since I actually started Notion, using this in Notion and being,
diligent
actually doing it. But I wanted to show you that within each one, I have, which sort of topic area or category. I actually have the script for myself within here, and the status. I also now keep track of, how many guests I do have who are from marginalized, who hold marginalized identities, because it's very important to me to represent and include lots of different voices. So it looks a little bit weird as a checkbox, but it's something that that is something that I'm paying attention to and including.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I do my workflow for the podcast, which is working quite well. I also use Notion really as a database for like all the presentations that I give, and this has like the script and also the link to the Google Slides, for instance, within each one, and all of my launch, plans, all of the email sequences, and all of that kind of stuff.
And do you ever share those sorts of, like this presentation page? Would this be something you could share with folks if they're like, hey, come speak at our event or be a guest post? Is there something that you share with them? Because if not, I think that's a great opportunity too, to have like a picture of you from the event or a cover image of like the talk that you delivered. And you can be like, hi, I'm Ayelet. I talk about XYZ. Here's some example of talks that I've given. I'm happy to share the one I use with you if it gives you some inspiration.
This is my secret reason for coming on, is getting all of the Marie ideas.
I'm like, we have to talk. No, I love it.
I wanted to, for instance, this is a place that I keep a record of all of the things, and I wanted to include this one here, but places that I have been mentioned, and that's useful for like going through and being. But yeah, no, that's a really, really good idea.
It's like almost like taking the recent press and the presentations, almost like creating a combo sort of, here's where I've spoken, here's how you can hire me, here's my high res, picture. Like often if people ask for podcast interviews, I'm like, oh, here's my Notion page that has everything that you need to know on it. Right?
Right now I have that just as a page on my actual website that's like media, and it has all of the links to each one. But yeah, I love the idea of.
There's so many. Yeah, it's obviously endless possibilities. Dragon did have a question that came in. He said, trying to wrap my head around the overall cost of running a course or coaching in Notion, Chili Pepper, Memberspace, Thinkific, Teachable, etc. I'm on the super domain Notion for the moment. Which plan are you using on Teachable?
On Teachable, I am on the professionals plan. Because I host a lot of several different courses there, and it has some specific keys that I really. And the drip function. I really like the drip function within Teachable. Most of them have that. Like it's fun because now I've been in this world of online courses and coaching programs and everything for a while now. So I've seen how lots of different people do it and how that feels. Another one that I love is Podia, because like I've now been in several really great, like smoothly run courses that in Podia, and I'm like, ooh, it's hard. And Mighty Networks is another great one. Like there's so many options. You just have to like tool around, see what works, figure out how you want it structured, and just go with it. And remember that you can always switch.
Absolutely.
But that's going to take time.
Yeah. I mean, it's harder to switch once your audience is bigger. It's still doable, but like while you're still testing out the waters, I don't think it has to be terribly expensive. That's kind of why I'm excited about, the Notion member space, Chili Pepper situation. Awesome. They're like, Notion is so affordable. I think Memberspace has plans that are like $25 a month or $12 a month. They got a couple different tiers. I'm not sure what what is the cost of Chili Pepper? I know they have a free version.
Free.
Chili Pepper. There you go.
It looks like they are preparing to have a paid version, but I can't imagine that it will be exorbitant.
Yeah. I mean, I think about I've been paying for Typeform for I don't know how many years, and like that's pretty costly. Like that definitely adds up. So free while they're in beta, so it's probably a good time to get on now and be one of the early adopters, I imagine. But I don't think when you're first delivering a course that it has to be terribly expensive. And again, that's why, like when I first ran Notion Mastery, I was inviting people as guests into my workspace. That it would, and that doesn't cost you anything to add guests. right? They don't have to be members. They can, Winnie was saying, what is in beta? It's like the in software, beta would be like the version before you're ready to launch, where you're like working out the kinks, you're doing that customer research, you're just like ironing all of those little wonky bits out. So sometimes, you'll come up against bugs or something like that in beta, but usually the benefit is you become an early adopter, you get to kind of test those features and influence usually where the product goes and how it gets developed. So I'm a big fan of launching courses in beta, like saying, hey, this is the first time I'm offering this. This is a work in progress. I want your feedback, and just iterating with your students before you, I think some people are guilty of like holding up in secret and like building a course that nobody wants, because they've been too scared to put the work out there and get that feedback from students. So I'm a big fan of kind of co-creating with your students and taking that pressure off. And I think Notion is such a spectacular use case for having a super, super affordable, if not nearly free, way of testing the waters on your course ideas, inviting people as guests. You can share pages, you can share databases, you can keep it really simple. Then when you're ready to go, pick a course platform, something that aligns with what you want to do, and go from there. So
I just wanted to show that this is what Chili Pepper's home base looks like. And it's so simple. You can decide which kind of field you want to create. Field type is right here. If it's multi-select, email, phone, text, long text, or a number, and decide whether it's required. The only limitation, and of course, again, this is because they're in beta, is that I think it's limited to, is it 6, Adrian? 6 questions at a time? So if you have like a very long, set of questions, then you won't be able to use it just once.
Yeah.
In some ways, for me, that's been kind of nice, because I tend to be a little bit like
forces you to get concise, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this tells me what I actually need. Yeah, 6 fields. Yeah,
that's cool. I'm curious, Adrian, too, if there's plans to, and maybe you're already doing this with the webhooks, like predetermine any relations as well. So if someone, if you're already sending that data to a person's database and there is already a relation to sales data or something like that, is there, I don't know, just curious if that's a thing.
So much.
Magic is emerging.
Amazing.
Yeah. What a great product.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah. No, it's clearly working for you. So I'm curious, how long have you been using this particular process, and have you gotten any feedback from people who've been going through it, being like, oh, like that was like such a lovely process? Or
I mean, it's like so easy. I mean, I've certainly gotten feedback about like, oh, that was easy. But I've been using it. When did we chat about it? You recommended it to me, Marie. Probably in May.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think I was using it for a directory and wasn't sure. I was like, oh, maybe this will work, maybe not. And I was so excited to hear that it was actually really working for you. So really cool.
It's been great.
Sounds like lots of magical stuff planned, especially once we get an official Notion API. I know, right? We're all just like waiting with bated breath on that. Yeah, very soon. But again, it seems like even without all the additional complexity of API and connections and whatever, that this is like sometimes simple is better. It's just working. It feels really tight and really organized.
Right. I even use, I was going to say, I've even used it as because I use ConvertKit for my email CMS. So if someone, for instance, in ConvertKit, if you ask, I'm sure this is true for many CRMs, but since I know ConvertKit, that's what I can speak to. You can, have an option for like, I don't want to hear from you about this special offer anymore. So sometimes I'll include that in an email that I'm sending to my list, and when they opt out, you have to send them to a page. Now, instead of creating a full page on my website that says, thanks for letting me know you won't get an email, like all I have to do is create a Notion page.
That is such a simple solution. I love that. Why am I not doing that already?
Right?
Yes, I love that.
That's another way I'm using Notion.
So simple. That's such a great tip. That's That's one of my big takeaways from today.
Good. I'm so glad.
Love it.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah. That's so great. I'd love to hear, if anyone has any specific questions, anything that you want to see, anything you're trying to figure out in Notion with, regards to your own coaching program, definitely add it to the ask a question area. But are there other areas too that, this has been really helpful for you, or that you find, even as you were like wrangling your content too, are there parts of like sorting out the curriculum and planning all that out? Like, is that that must be a big part?
I was going to say, actually, I wanted to show you this page, because this is where everything is here. Everything is actually stored in Notion in addition to on my computer. So for
Smart. Yes. Don't only have your data in one place.
Yeah. So like all of the entire curriculum itself is here somewhere. Yeah, here it is. So for instance, like all of these go in. This is an activity plan. It opens into its own page. This was like, as I was writing the actual curriculum, I made sure that I had, I was saying it in, not saying it. I was checking it off in Notion. This was how I planned the actual content of my program. So that's another use case, of course, as well.
I love that.
So many.
Yeah, no, I really like this too, because I know we've had other guests, like Nicole also came on and talked about online courses and lots of amazing relations in her stuff too. I know some people get intimidated by that, or maybe they aren't comfortable enough with that. The simplicity of this, it's so simple. Like, did I do the thing? Yes, it's all here. It's so easy for you to go through, and I love it.
I wanted to, just because due to like the current state of affairs, this is literally how we took my first grader out of school and we are homeschooling. And this is how I'm keeping track of the kinds of things that we're doing. So another use case, here you go.
Wow. Yeah. There's no shortage.
Anyway.
anything that involves you like keeping data, multiple points of data in your head, right, can just be a place to brain dump.
Exactly.
Amazing. Yeah. Another question popped in. What are the main things preventing you from running your whole teaching program within Notion, i.e. what specific things do you need Teachable for? That's a great question.
That is a great question. So I've been using Teachable, or, a course platform for this. Primarily, I drip content each week.
It's a big one. Yep.
The modules, and it's on. I mean, technically, I suppose I could just give someone access through an email on Notion.
True. Right. Huh. That's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it just comes down to what I have the bandwidth to figure out, and a platform that I'm already comfortable using and have been using for other things, and feels to me to just look professional. But again, I could certainly make Notion look professional because it already does in so many ways.
I guess one of the big risks too is that your options are invite someone in manually as a guest, right? So until the API comes in, you can automate that. You're having to manually invite people by email or make those pages public. Yeah. Which does mean that they become shareable. So there is a little bit of a risk there. There's no login required. They can just access the page. So I know at some point, I was inviting people manually as guests into Notion Mastery. And then at some point I'm like, this is not exactly sustainable. So I actually now automate adding people as members in a workspace, which requires a whole other kind of set of things to think about there. So
I think for me too, it's just a matter of having everything in one place that's a format that's already created for this, for this specific thing. And that I can at least feel more confident that it's it's made for that, and that my information is safe within that. Yeah.
Naomi had a great question about, I want my clients to be able to reflect weekly and see those reflections on their own client page, plus see those responses myself. Would I be able to do that with Notion and Chili Pepper? So I imagine if that client has been given guest access on a page. So I do have a client that does this as well. So they have a database of like 150 people, and each of those people's profiles, they get invited just into that page with full editing permissions. That does mean that person will need to create a Notion account, and they'll have to go through that onboarding process. So sometimes a bit of education around that with your client, even like a public page that you'd share with them that would be like, and then you'll be prompted to sign up for Notion. Here's what that looks like. And like kind of make it as clear as possible what that process is going to look like for them. Invite them into their page, maybe even a little welcome video that kind of shows you walking through how to update and edit their information. You can have those Chili Pepper forms in there. So there's lots of interesting creative ways I've seen people kind of doing this in little elements. I think it partly depends, how many people do you have in the program? How scalable is it? How much do you want to be doing this manually? You do have some options, but I think especially when you're just like beta testing and you're just in the beginning, I think if you have under 100 people in your thing, you could manage that in Notion, but it does take a little bit more prep to make sure people are comfortable learning a new tech, simplifying it down, right? Because my tendency is like databases and relations and woo, roll-ups. But when you're bringing in someone who's never seen Notion, those pages need to be very simple, very easy. They know exactly what to do next. Sometimes even toggle, like people don't know that you can click on the arrow of a toggle and open that up, right? There's lots of things that we take for granted now that we've just been using for so long, but a new person doesn't necessarily know. So that's just something to be aware of as you think about that. But yes, Naomi, you could totally do that. Another question popped in. What part of your business is coaching? Am I understanding correctly that your teachable side is a course?
Yeah, so it's a combo basically. So I have that offering, for instance, is a training program that they go through, which is a course. It's an online course. After they complete that course, they also then have continued access to both the curriculum itself that they are paying for access to once they've completed the licensed materials that they've trained for. And then on an ongoing basis, they also receive ongoing coaching, support, and networking to help them ensure that they feel supported to offer these classes. So whether it's the coaching is around, all of the things that the training covers, which include things like mindset, marketing, confidence, partnering with local organizations, all the logistical details, all of those things. So it's both sort of a supportive community as well as coaching from myself and from each other.
And is there a one-to-one as well as one-to-many, or what does the scope of that coaching look like?
It's group coaching currently.
Cool.
Yeah.
So there's a requirement, sort of prerequisite, go through material first, then they're attending these ongoing coaching calls.
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. I like that. Are clients voicing concerns about privacy for their data that they submit, which resides in Notion? I guess nobody's voiced that concern. I mean, also, I can speak a little bit to this. I do think whenever we're sort of submitting our details, like I assume that's going into the cloud somewhere, like that data it's existing somewhere, whether it's, Google Docs or whatever other platforms. My whole life is kind of online in different capacities. So I assume if I'm filling out a coaching form and there's, personal details or how much I'm earning or whatever, I know that data is being held somewhere. And there's risks, I think, with any technology for sure. But if I was that concerned about, submitting that information, I don't know. It's hard to say because we're so immersed in the online world and shipping online courses and doing this kind of stuff that we kind of err toward like, yeah, it's possible. It could happen. That is a risk. But
yeah, I also I don't store. I mean, I guess I do store people's contact information, their mailing address, for instance, a photo of them and what they have said to me relating to the program specifically. But I don't store you know,
Private
credit card
personal.
information or anything
Yeah.
like that on any database like that. Like that is specifically within my my what's it called? My like checkout.
Like payment processor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Thank you. My payment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine, they're held to, higher standards and compliancy and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm curious, Anil, if there's like specific types of data that you're concerned about. But yeah, I'm kind of the same. Like there's not a ton that I collect that way too. It's more like, tell me about your productivity habits. What what programs are you using? Where are you frustrated? And that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Yeah, let us know if you've.
Yes, yeah, simplicity is key.
Yeah, love the idea of welcome videos are so great. Those thank you pages, public pages. Public pages to help people figure out the platform. Even just what's the minimum that they need to know, right? And just kind of walk them through that. Loom is another great tool for just dropping in those very quick screen captures and quick videos and things like that. There's a free version of Loom, I think. It's like you can always do this with the sort of free tools as you're just getting your feet wet, and then you can worry about scaling later. But keep it simple always.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Any other pieces that you're like, just really excited about, or the SOPs, like, I'm sure that stuff must save your butt because you're like, oh, how did I do that again? And you're like going back.
Yeah, just the simple thing. I mean, and it sounds, I'm sure, ridiculous to those of you who are, Notion, what happened? No, those of you who have.
That's making you log in again, I guess.
That's really wow. Okay, here, let me stop sharing for a second.
Yeah, here's my password.
Yeah, exactly. Goodbye. There. Okay. Oh, sorry. What was it? Oh, yeah. I was gonna say that like it must sound ridiculous to some of those of you who are watching who are like this comes naturally for, but like I had literally never made I don't organize myself like this naturally. This is just not my natural state. But here we go. For instance, like I now have, like this was major for me. I actually have my bio in one place and certain images that I keep coming back to, and like my mission and vision and value statements and things like that. And then like vision and strategy, strategic planning, stuff like that, right? Like that's the kind of thing that I want, obviously, to have access to on a regular basis that's easy to find. Like
highly visible.
Pixel, all those, like the basic stuff. This is simply a template that I just copy and pasted from the actual Notion, templates, but then of course created for myself. So yeah, I mean, really it's just, the beauty is that it can be anything. That's, I know, something that makes people very scared about Notion in the beginning as well, because it did for me too. I was like, what, a blank screen?
Where do I start?
Going through these office hours and Marie's, especially like your early, like get started videos, like beautiful.
I love it. April was asking for a clarification question. So she said, so Notion is used for your intake and as a CRM, but the execution on the business side is all on Teachable.
That's correct. In my case, yeah. And then just to store all the database of information, as far as like all of my license, all of my materials are actually stored as an extra database here inside of Notion, as well as all my presentations and my workflows and things like that. All of that's there.
And would you store things like recordings of the live coaching sessions and notes about that, or reflections about that as well?
I do store the notes, the like what people have answered as far as those questions and those surveys, and for instance, like notes to myself about what I need to shift for the next thing. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Any other questions or things people want to see about this? I always just love seeing people's Notion setups. It feels like you're peeking into somebody's underwear drawer. It's like so personal. It just like tells you so much about somebody. I just love it. It's just seeing how people's brains work and seeing the creative solutions that people have come up with.
Yeah.
No, Naomi asked, what has been your process for choosing the next thing to add and organize in Notion?
It's very much a
no process, as needed, right? Yeah.
What do I need next kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's such a great example, right? And, you know, sometimes I think when people see my setups too, they get a little intimidated. But when I first started using Notion, like it didn't look anything like how I use it today. I didn't even use databases. I was like throwing images in there and notes, and it was just like a calamity, but it felt great to me because I knew that, well, at least I know where everything is. And then as I, you know, wrap my head around databases, I was like, oh, okay, there's more here than meets the eye. There's a lot of potential here. So again, you kind of layer in as you go. It's like, oh, now I need a place for my notes. Oh, now I need a place for, and you just kind of layer in as you go, and then you can clean up later.
Yes. I see Paul said that he has customer language in database, a customer language database in Notion. I also do keep some of that. My major database is currently on a Google spreadsheet just because that's where it was started years ago. But like when I'm creating, for instance, this is a good one. I'm trying to see where I can find, where is it? When I'm creating, like building a sales page, for instance, I'll bring in certain specific language and I'll start building the sales page. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Using language, and I'll like categorize it and have it all right here looking so that I can have, have things all on one place, right? So, no, is that not? Yes, here we go.
Cool.
So for instance, like, yes, these are all of the categories of the things that people said. And then I think if I scroll down here, it's like also things that people said here, and then how I created those into bullet points that I could use.
This is such a key habit to get into for anyone, like regardless of whether you're in products or services or whatever, just have a place where you can begin dumping this information and sorting by topic. It's a gold mine.
It's a gold. And I mean, I go back in here and find things that people have said, and that's what I create my social media posts out of too.
Yep.
Like that's literally that's it. This is everything.
It's brilliant. Yeah, I think everyone can benefit from something like this, just a place where you can store that information. Love that. Yeah, customer language, customer research, insights, those little nuggets, testimonials. I love that. I did, the first time I ran this program, I used it, I used this as on a sales call. I was like describing what people could expect from the actual program. So it was sort of like a hybrid. There was like a very cursory sales page like landing page that led into like an application process. They applied and then they got on a sales call with me, and I shared my screen with them to show them what the actual program was, for instance. That's another great example. Like you don't necessarily have to share the link, but just having a page for yourself even to kind of walk through those points and share that on your screen. Brilliant. Yeah, love that. That's really cool. Anil was asking about backlinks. Do you use backlinks in which capacity? I don't see any backlinks in your pages, and
I do hyperlink, but no, not really a whole lot. Again, like I have literally just been running by the seat of my pants to do this. So right now I have like, I'm brimming with like so many ideas for what I can add, but
one thing at a time, right? Like it's amazing.
The curse of the entrepreneur.
Absolutely. It's amazing how effective, again, I think how effective you've been with very little. Like, it's just basic pages. It's really
Yeah.
it's really simple and super effective. You do not need to overcomplicate. You don't need to engineer or architect or plan out your space and do whimsical maps to figure out how everything's going to connect. Just keep it really simple, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Paul, backlinks are definitely going to be my next thing.
And I think backlinks, you know, they're so great for behind the scenes where you're like referencing other things you read and whatever. But I think when you're sharing customer facing pages, it's almost like that doesn't, maybe not as useful. Yeah, Simone was asking, what are backlinks? So you can type at, and you can type the name of a page anytime you use that little at symbol. You can do at now, at pages. So she could type in like at Learn with Less curriculum, and it auto populates that link. And anytime that you're linking to a page, that like there's now a connection between those two pages, and you can jump very quickly between any two pages that are kind of mentioning one another. It's very, very handy. There we go.
That's the backlink. It could then connect to this. I do have some, but yeah. But for instance, that would then send you to my podcast pages.
And then on the podcast page, you would see that Learn with Less link. So they become
yeah.
this, two-way relation.
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny, we might have to talk about that in another session. What does Marie use backlinks for? But yeah, it's a great feature. Also, I find the timestamp, like at now, can be a really great way to do like last updated at now, and it spits out a current timestamp. So even for your clients or certain pages, you could say this page was last updated at this time, and timestamp things, even for your own memory of like, oh right, when did I last update this page? It's just kind of a nice visual. I'll sometimes put that in a call out block.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, backlinks are definitely awesome. But I love the simplicity of the pages, especially for potentially non-Notion users.
Yeah.
A lot of folks still haven't heard of it. So to be able to send them this page, they're like, ooh, what's Notion? And this page is really pretty, and there's lots of emojis.
Yeah. I love the emojis. Makes me
I think that's why we're all here. We're those people that love the emojis. Exactly. Amazing. Love it. Yeah, I'm curious if anyone here who's like either already running a coaching program, is there anything that you've seen here that maybe you're going to implement or whatnot, or how many of you maybe are storing your own curriculum inside of Notion? Really curious how other people are using it, and if there's anything that you're going to maybe change after seeing this. I know I've already gotten lots of ideas, and those thank you pages with ConvertKit, such a simple but effective thing. So again, for anyone that's like thinking about launching a coaching program, I'm a huge fan of doing those pre-sales, right? Like sell the program, put together an outline, put it out there before you've actually crafted the content. Like make sure that people are actually interested in that, or at least start collecting interest before you worry too much about what all the details are, what tech you're going to use. Start with building that audience first. Mm-hmm. I know we're in several online course communities too, so we're implementing lots of that. I run my entire Clarity coaching business in Notion. Yeah, April, I'd love to see how yours has evolved too, because I know April does a ton of awesome Notion stuff and client services and coaching and stuff like that. So I would love to see how yours has evolved. Very cool.
So awesome.
Yeah. Any other tips to leave with people, or just other things people should be aware of? Obviously, they should sign up for a Chili Pepper account.
Yeah, definitely go play with Chili Pepper, especially while it's free. Woo! And yeah, I mean, I think that just also like Notion again has so many simple templates for you to start with, and just if this is not something that, like me, for you is something that comes naturally, that there are ways to simplify and get started. And it's definitely created a lot more calm in the face of a year that has been so anxious.
Yeah. We can come to Notion and feel peace. Yeah, like, at least everything is in its place, even if the world is falling apart.
Exactly. I don't know. There's something to be said about that. For sure.
The emojis, right? Just immediately create that calming. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, sad. Can relate. Yes. Love it. And I'm just curious too, what has the impact been for you, just in terms of maybe how you launched this in the past compared to now? Obviously, there's way more things kind of in place. And I know it's an evergreen is it an evergreen program?
It is, yeah.
So it's available anytime. Okay, so that probably is just, you put it in place once and now you're like, oh, okay, it's there.
Right.
You go up and do the calls.
Yeah.
So the time savings must be immense now that
it's incredible. Yeah. No, and just having everything in one place that I know exactly where to go and exactly what to do, that I can pull from when I need it. It's just, yeah, the time saving, the energy saving, the brain sanity savings.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing. Well, I've included a link to Ayelet's program, Learn with Less, at the bottom there. If you want to like see what that looks like, check out her program. Maybe you're curious about that. But thank you so much for your. Oh, I saw another question just popped in. Oh, hey, Mark. Oh, he was asking Naomi, how has Notion changed your coaching business model? Also, how many people do you have on your team? So I think that was meant for
Naomi. Yeah.
Naomi, but
yeah, you gotta have Naomi on next.
Yeah, Naomi. Yeah, I'm curious. Running a gamified program for young writers with various courses included.
That's really cool.
Yeah, Naomi, I'm curious too, if are you already running it on a course platform, or are you in the process of kind of deciding which platform? Are you thinking of moving it into Notion? I imagine a lot of your content's already like written inside of Notion, so I'm kind of curious what your what's the next step for you? Really interesting.
So cool.
Yeah, and this is something I really love live streaming about as well. Just the really creative ways people are monetizing Notion and just using it to kind of amplify, to sell templates, to run courses. I just think it's so neat to see what is happening. Oh, it's on Pathwrite and moving it over to Notion.
Cool. Yay.
Yeah, very interesting. I find this so fascinating too, because obviously Notion is not, I don't think they're even like gunning for the, online course market or anything like that, but it is kind of an interesting opportunity, especially with, again, this member space possibility. I think it's going to be interesting to see how people end up finding these ways like around the, turning it into a course platform and finding these creative ways to do that. Oh yeah, Mark was asking for you as well. So how has Notion changed your coaching model, and how many people do you have on your team? We know that you're a team of one at the moment. Perhaps you'll think about scaling up or bringing on an assistant. But yeah, what has it meant for your coaching business?
I mean, really, it just has helped me in the ease and clarity and organization. For me, again, I'm not type A. I am a person who wishes they were type A.
Me too. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of how I can create those systems and processes that make me feel confident that I can do the things. And I think that's such a big part of running any kind of business, and especially a coaching business too, is remembering that you are is that feeling of confidence, that feeling of I can do this. I have all of the things that I need. Just having it right here, it makes you feel confident that you know exactly what you're doing, because you do. You can see it every single day in the simplicity of the pages that you created.
I love that. There's almost like a mental RAM that is no longer being used up, right? Just trying to hold all that disparate information. So I think once it's there, your brain can relax a little bit. So I think that's huge, just knowing it's all there. Naomi was saying an assistant and a team of 20 contract mentors. Really cool. Nonprofit, board of volunteers. Naomi, I'd be super excited to see behind the scenes of your workspace too. Maybe a future office hours. Yeah, and I can really relate to what you were saying too. Believe it or not, I'm not actually a very naturally type A person, but I think I've read so much and just kind of watched so many people and really studied systems in every sense, because I always felt so chaotic in my own life. And I was like, surely there's an easier way, there's a better way. How do we give this, structure and order? And so I've learned to now love systems, and we can lean on them. It helps reduce that stress, right? So when you have a framework, in place, it's so much easier to stand confident and feel in your authority, because you're like, yeah, I know I have a system. I do it this way over and over and over again. If something new comes up, I can tweak the system. But when you've got something, a baseline to start with, everything else becomes so much easier.
It's so true.
Yeah, love it. Thank you so much for generously showing us all behind the scenes of your training program. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was so fun chatting with y'all.
Yeah, so definitely, you guys, check out chilipepper.io. I'm really curious what you think about that. And if anyone else here, wants to join me for an office hours, or you've got a really cool use case that you want to show, just hit me up on Twitter at Marie Poulin, and I would love to see your setups and get you on, because I think a lot of folks, at least from what I see, and maybe because I'm tuned in and interested, the online course side of things, monetizing it, finding creative ways to do service delivery within Notion, I think is really interesting. So yeah, Ayelet, thank you so much for sharing this with us, and check out the Learn with Less program. Hopefully you were inspired today to get some of your stuff together for your own coaching programs, and we will see you all next week. Thank you so much, Ayelet.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Marie.
Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye. Thanks.